This isn't your typical overpowered MC Manhwa, because in this story, our main character doesn't have any special powers. The only ability he has is that he can borrow a hero's presence, but not their powers. Yeah, you heard that right. While other protagonists are out there getting insane abilities and breaking the system, our MC can only imitate the aura of other heroes. Nothing more. So basically, he looks impressive, but he's actually powerless. But one day, everything changes when the world's strongest hero suddenly visits his house. And from that moment, our MC's life completely turns upside down. So without wasting any more time, let's begin. But before we start, make sure to subscribe. The story begins by introducing us to the world of heroes, extraordinary individuals who possess superhuman abilities beyond normal human limits. Right from the start, we're thrown into an intense battle. A massive, powerfully built man stands ready to fight, and facing him is a figure dressed in a sleek biker suit. The huge man charges forward, throwing a devastating punch. But the biker-suited fighter doesn't flinch. He generates fire directly in his hand, and with a single, powerful punch, takes the giant down completely. The crowd goes absolutely wild. The hero's strength is unbelievable. One punch, that's all it took. Meanwhile, not too far away, a young man is watching this very same fight, sitting comfortably with his girlfriend by his side. His girlfriend turns to him, amazed, and says, "He's incredible, isn't he? Just one blow and the villain was finished." The guy nods and replies, "Well, he is a pro hero after all. But honestly, the more I watch him, the more he reminds me of my friend Kim Sun-Hoo." And right on cue, his friend Kim Sun-Hoo is sitting right there in front of them, completely drunk and barely able to stay upright. Sun-Hoo slurs back, "How could I possibly look like that guy? I can barely walk straight right now." Suddenly, Sun-Hoo's phone buzzes with a message. Without a word, he gets up and slips away. The scene shifts, and we follow Sun-Hoo into a restroom. The moment he steps inside, he speaks into the silence. "I'm here. You don't need to hide anymore." And just like that, the biker-suited hero from earlier steps out of the shadows. Sun-Hoo immediately scolds him. "How many times do I have to tell you? Don't show off like that in front of people. You're going to blow the whole secret." But the biker-suited figure calmly responds, "You don't need to worry so much about everyone else." He then pulls back his mask, and underneath it is a young man who looks almost identical to Sun-Hoo. He looks Sun-Hoo in the eye and says, "This is my personal life. You don't need to question it. You get paid for the job, so transform back into your real form and we're done." And with that, our hero shifts back, reverting to his true appearance. His name is Lee Jun, but before Lee Jun can even breathe, Sun-Hoo grabs him by the face and stares him down. "When you were acting as me, you didn't try anything weird with my girlfriend, did you?" Lee Jun smirks and replies, "Come on, you know what kind of person I am. And this isn't exactly my first time doing this job." The tension breaks, and the two share a brief laugh. Sun-Hoo pats him on the back, says "Great job," hands over his payment, and walks out. Lee Jun pockets the money and heads home, thinking to himself, "I have a superpower, but it's not the kind that makes you a hero. Every single day, I live a completely normal life, hiding behind the face of someone else." And here, the story pauses to explain the world these characters live in. 20 years ago, people across the world began developing superhuman abilities. But with great power came great chaos. Crime skyrocketed. The world was thrown into disorder. So the government stepped in and created a law, the hero-villain law. Under this law, anyone who defied the government and used their powers for destruction was labeled a villain. And those who worked alongside the government to stop these villains and protect the world, they were called heroes. The scene now cuts to the villain headquarters, where the villain leader, Nami's, sits casually with his girlfriend and subordinates, laughing and joking around. The hero-villain law? Please. If heroes actually had any real power, they'd come here and arrest us themselves, he mocks. But the laughter doesn't last long. Suddenly, a wall of the building explodes inward. A hero steps through the rubble. He points directly at Nami's and declares, "Under Section 1 of the hero-villain law, you will be brought to justice." Nami snarls. He shifts into his true demonic form and roars, "You dare stand before me and say that?" He launches a full attack, but the hero doesn't even break a sweat. With a single punch, Nami's is sent crashing to the ground. Stunned and defeated, Nami's gasps, Who are you?" The hero stands tall and answers, "Manhwa, the hero of justice." The scene shifts back to our main protagonist, Lee Jun, who has just returned to his room. He sits alone and thinks, "Why is my ability like this? I can copy anyone's appearance perfectly, but I can never fight monsters face to face. What's the point?" He pulls out the money he earned, counts it slowly, then lies back on his bed with a heavy sigh. "I guess this is just going to be my life. I'll keep doing this job until I'm 50, and then I'll finally retire." Just then, then, his doorbell rings. Lee Jun rushes to the door and opens it, and his heart nearly stops. Standing right outside his door is none other than Justice. Lee Jun completely freezes. Justice looks at him calmly and asks, "You're the one who illegally lives the normal life of heroes, aren't you?" Lee Jun's mind spirals into panic. He thinks, it's over. He's here to arrest me. This is the end. But then, Justice says something completely unexpected. "I'm here to hire you." Lee Jun blinks. He cannot believe what he just heard. Justice continues, "I know this must be a shock, but I mean it." He pulls out a folder of documents and hands them to Lee Jun. "Everything you'll need to copy me is right here." Lee Jun flips through the documents carefully, then looks up. "This all looks fine, but if I can't see your actual face, how am I supposed to copy you properly?" Without hesitation, Justice removes his mask and lets Lee Jun see his real face. Lee Jun studies everything carefully and then asks, "When do I start?" Justice replies, "Tomorrow." He hands Lee Jun a VIP card and leaves. The next morning arrives. Lee Jun makes his way to the location Justice gave him. Standing outside Justice's room, he pauses and thinks. Justice is a frontline hero, someone who puts his life on the line every day to protect humanity. And me? I'm the complete opposite. He takes a breath and walks in. Justice is seated across the room, but something is horribly wrong. Blood is dripping from Justice's mouth. Lee Jun's body goes cold. His mind races. Is he dead? Is the #1 hero actually dead right now? He hesitates, then thinks, maybe he's still alive. He reaches out and touches Justice's body. The instant he makes contact, both their bodies erupt in a blinding glow. Lee Jun is thrown backward by a powerful shockwave. He crashes to the ground and stares at his hand in horror as 2 of his fingers begin to grow unnaturally large. Panic sets in. "I need to get out of here, right now." He bolts, sprinting through the hallway, and crashes straight into someone, a young man who had been holding a cup of coffee. The collision sends the coffee splashing all over the man's shirt. That man is Shin, the same friend we saw at the very beginning of the story. Shin looks at Lee Jun and narrows his eyes. "Hey, copycat, why are you running around grabbing your own hand like that?" Lee Jun glances down and realizes his fingers are already back to normal. But Shin isn't letting it go that easily. "Do you have any idea how expensive this shirt was?" Their argument was still going on when suddenly, out of nowhere, a devastating attack strikes Shin directly in the stomach, tearing clean through him. The attacker? An octopus-type monster villain. Lee's mind immediately jumps to one conclusion. Was this the same creature that killed Justice? Meanwhile, Shin is furious. Despite the gaping wound in his stomach, he channels his firepower and launches a counterattack at the villain. But the octopus monster dodges it effortlessly and hurls its tentacles straight at Shin. Shin burns every single one of them away with his fire and charges forward. But the monster isn't done. It instantly spawns 4 more tentacles, wrapping them tightly around Shin and lifting him off the ground. "Did you really think I only had 4 tentacles?" The monster taunts. "I have far more than that, and I can heal them almost instantly." With Shin captured, pure terror spreads through the crowd. People scatter in every direction, screaming and running for their lives. And then, the octopus monster crushes Shin and hurls his body aside like it was nothing. "Is there anyone here who can actually fight me?" It roars. Silence. No one steps forward. Not a single person. So the monster begins attacking the helpless crowd. Lee is hiding behind the monster, watching the carnage unfold. The screams of innocent people are ringing in his ears. 2 bystanders nearby whisper to each other, "Don't worry. This is Justice's territory. He'll show up any second and save us all." Lee's chest tightens. He thinks, they don't know. Justice is dead. He's never coming. That's when Lee's eyes fall on a small girl, crouched alone in a corner, sobbing uncontrollably. And the monster sees her too. Lee shouts at her to run, but the girl is so traumatized she can't even move. The monster launches a tentacle directly at her. Lee doesn't think. He just runs. He sprints toward the girl, and the moment he grabs the incoming tentacle, his hands erupt in brilliant blue energy. He crushes the tentacle in his grip and tears it off completely. The monster stares in shock because Lee has transformed. He is now standing there in the form of Justice. Lee rips the tentacle out and throws it aside, stepping toward the monster with calm authority. Under Section 1 of the hero-villain law, you will be punished. And then, quietly, he thinks to himself, I can feel an enormous amount of power flowing through my body right now. This is my first time ever fighting a villain, but I think I can actually do this. The octopus monster scoffs. Don't get cocky just because you tore off one tentacle. I can heal them instantly. It regenerates immediately and fires a barrage of tentacles at Lee from every direction. But to Lee, every single attack feels like it's moving in slow motion. He dodges everything with ease, darts forward, and drives his fist straight into the monster's face. The monster goes flying, but catches itself with a tentacle before it hits the ground. Lee grabs that very tentacle, spins the monster around like a ragdoll, and sends it smashing into a wall. The monster is nearly finished. Lee is buzzing with adrenaline. He thinks, I really do have incredible power inside me right now. But the monster isn't dead yet. It drags itself up and charges at Lee again. Lee winds up for the finishing punch, and then his hand starts transforming back. Not now, not again. Lee panics, recognizing the same phenomenon from before. And in that split second of vulnerability, a sudden attack comes from out of nowhere and obliterates the octopus monster completely. Lee spins around, stunned. The attack came from a girl standing a short distance away. She walks up to him and says casually, Mr. Justice, I'm sure you already sensed that threat coming, which is why you held back and let me handle it. You're truly something else. Lee, internally screaming, just nervously nods along. Before anyone can process what just happened, the octopus monster twitches again. Another girl steps forward and fires a laser beam directly from her eyes, finishing it off for good. In the chaos that follows, Lee slips away and disappears. The laser-eyed girl turns to the first girl and says coolly, everything on the ground is under control. From behind them, a girl in a hoodie steps forward and says to the first girl, what about the injured civilians? Go help them. The first girl scrambles off to assist. The hooded girl stares at the direction Lee fled, her eyes narrowing. Is Justice actually still alive? But how is that possible? She saw him run, and she noticed everything. The scene cuts to Lee's apartment. He's already home, frantically shredding every single document Justice had given him through a paper cutter, stuffing every last piece into the trash. As he tosses it all away, he thinks, whoever killed Justice must be far more powerful than him. But that's not my problem. I just need to figure out how to stay as far away from all of this as possible. I'm sure no one saw me back there. Then, from directly above him, a voice cuts through the silence. I saw you. Lee freezes. His blood runs cold. He slowly looks around the room, and then, out of the shadow on the floor beneath him, the hooded girl from earlier rises up like a ghost stepping out of the darkness. She looks at him and says, did you really think destroying all the evidence would make this go away? Lee lets out a scream so loud the girl actually tells him to be quiet. She reaches into the dustbin, pulls out every shredded piece of paper, and using her power, reassembles every single fragment back into the original documents. There, she says. All clear. Then she turns to face him directly. You know about Justice's death. That puts me in a very difficult position. Without another word, she attacks. Lee barely dodges, transforms into his hero form, and thinks, I have no other choice. If this girl is the one who killed Justice, I'm not holding back. He dodges her strike and charges at her with a punch, but his body starts transforming back again, mid-attack. His form flickers and reverts. The girl seizes the moment immediately. She hits him, again, and again, and again. Lee takes blow after blow. He's badly hurt, but he refuses to go down. When she comes at him again, Lee wrenches a massive boulder off the road and uses it as a shield. She smashes through it on her next strike, but Lee spots his opening. He drives his fist straight into her face. A small cut appears on her cheek, and Lee isn't done. He winds up for another punch, ready to finish it. But suddenly, he realizes he can't move. He's completely frozen in place, trapped in the shadows. Lee had stepped directly onto the girl's shadow, and she wasn't going to let that opportunity slip. Finally, she says coldly, you've entered my domain. Her shadow wraps around Lee like a vice, squeezing the air out of his lungs. He can't breathe. He can't move. The darkness is swallowing him whole. And then, she lets go. Lee gasps, completely confused. Why did she release him? The girl looks at him and speaks, not with hostility, but with purpose. What's your plan? Exactly. Are you going to spend your entire life hiding behind heroes? Working in their shadow forever? She steps closer and grabs his face. You could do something more. You could take Justice's place. Lee stares at her, speechless. She continues, her voice calm and calculated. If the news spreads that Justice is dead, the entire world will fall into chaos. Every villain faction will activate at once and launch an all-out assault on the heroes. Lee still doesn't trust her. He narrows his eyes. Who are you? My name is Chrome, she replies. I work under Hero Justice. Even hearing that, Lee isn't convinced. He pulls out the documents Justice had given him and checks them carefully, and there it is. Chrome's name. She really is part of Justice's team. Chrome looks at him steadily and says, if you agree to act as Justice, we will pay you 100 million. The number hits Lee like a shockwave. That was an enormous amount of money, more than he had ever imagined. But Chrome isn't done. And if you refuse, the news of Justice's death goes public. You already know what that would mean. Lee's mind flashes back to Justice's room, to the moment the villain attacked, to all the people who had already died that day. He goes quiet. Chrome sees his hesitation and says softly, "I'm not going to force you. If you don't want to do this, I'll leave." She turns to walk away. "Wait." Chrome stops. Lee's voice is steady now. "I'll do it, but not for 100 million. I want 200 million. A brief pause. Then Chrome turns back and agrees. "Just don't go back on your word," she says. The scene jumps forward 1 week. Lee looks absolutely exhausted, dark circles, drained expression, running on pure determination. In just 7 days, he has memorized everything about justice, every behavior, every mannerism, every attitude, every habit. Chrome walks in and says simply, "It's time. We need to go." The Hero Association. The next scene shows Lee and Chrome riding together in a car. Lee turns to her. "Justice is dead. Can't we just report it to the higher-ups?" Chrome shakes her head. "If we tell the higher-ups, there's no guarantee one of them isn't a traitor. That information could reach the villains within hours." They arrive at their destination, a hospital. Lee looks confused. "Why are we at a hospital?" Chrome glances at him. "It looks like a hospital from the outside." She pulls out an identity card, scans it at a side entrance, and leads Lee through a door, and on the other side is something completely unexpected. Heroes everywhere. The entire interior is the Hero Association headquarters, hidden inside what appeared to be an ordinary hospital. Lee's jaw nearly drops. Chrome whispers sharply, "Don't do anything that draws attention to you." She slips into a nearby room. Lee peeks through the doorway and immediately recognizes the faces inside. These aren't just any heroes. These are the highest-ranked heroes from all 4 major hero squads. The absolute top of the chain. Inside the room, a heated argument is already underway. Heroes from different factions are throwing blame at each other, accusing rival squads of neglecting their territories, allowing monster activity to go unchecked. The tension is thick and bitter. And then, the real issue surfaces. Justice has been missing for a week now. Is the rumor true? Was he attacked? Is he actually dead? The room tenses. Chrome steps inside, and a hero immediately confronts her. "Chrome, did Justice contact you?" Chrome answers steadily, "Yes. Justice contacted me." Before she can say another word, a small but sharp-eyed hero steps forward and cuts her off. "That's a lie. I went to Justice's penthouse myself. There was blood everywhere." The room erupts. A large, powerfully built hero turns to Chrome, his voice hard. "Chrome, is any of this true?" The pressure in the room is suffocating. Chrome's composure begins to crack as she thinks, "How do I handle this now?" On the other side of the door, Lee is watching Chrome's expression shift, and he reads the situation instantly. This is getting out of hand. If Justice doesn't show up right now, Chrome is finished. And this whole thing falls apart. He takes a breath, and then, Justice walks into the room. "Everything Chrome said is correct," Lee announces, his voice carrying the full weight of Justice's authority. The room goes dead silent. A hero wearing headphones lets out a disbelieving laugh. "Who was saying Justice was dead?"